There honestly may be something wrong with me. This entire video is purely dedicated about the best bang for your buck budget. That's gonna happen so many times. This entire video is purely dedicated at getting the best bang for your buck on some budget graphics cards under $100, and I still ended up paying more money than I should have to ensure that all three of our cards are the same exact model because aesthetics over everything. It's gonna be really fun looking at how clean all three of these cards are in the B-roll shots today, and after the video, you'll know I'll be putting together some budget white gaming PCs with these graphics cards. This is definitely gonna be a do as I say and not do as I do style of video though, because you can buy all three of these GPUs for under $100 and cheaper than what I paid, and these will be perfect options for budget personal builds or especially budget PC flips. Our testing rig is also rocking the aesthetics over everything mindset. I'm physically incapable of showcasing just a standard test bench setup on the channel, so you know we went a little overkill on this one as well. We'll talk about all these parts a little later in the video, but for now, a quick word from today's sponsor. I've promoted a ton of third-party key reseller websites in the past, but Digital Chill Mart continues to be my all-time personal favorite site to use, and I've bought at least 30 keys from them so far for my own business. Digital Chill Mart not only has all the keys you need, such as Windows 10 and Windows 11 for your PC flipping business, but unlike everyone else, they also provide literally instant key delivery as soon as you purchase it, which is why it's my favorite website to use. With the coupon code ZTT, they're actually giving you 50% off, and that drops the price of Windows 10 Home down to just $10. I don't see a single other website beating that price right now. Head on down to the link in the description to remove that nasty unactivated Windows 10 watermark. Show your customers that buy your builds that you're legit so you get more business in the future, and don't forget to use discount code ZTT to get 50% off. All right, so real quickly before we talk about these specific models, I have to address all the keyboard warriors down in the comment section first. The prices that we're gonna talk about today are 100% not once in a lifetime unrepeatable deals. You can definitely get the same exact prices that I'm about to talk about, but with a little bit of patience. I didn't want to make a video showcasing 3 GPUs under $100 that you'll most likely never find at that price, because that doesn't help anybody, but rather these selections are based on prices that you'll actually see out in the wild, but you will need to exercise a little bit of patience like I said. It's really tough trying to balance this concept for these style of videos. On one end, I could show you prices that only dedicated true PC flippers will pay because they're consistently hawking the used marketplaces every single hour. Some of these people are in the ZTT Discord server, which is linked down below by the way. And on the other end of the spectrum, I could select GPUs that are literally always under $100 on almost every single posting, and it would be stupid to pay $1 above that. These 3 choices that we have today though are right in the middle, so you'll need to use some patience, but it shouldn't be that difficult to repeat. Chances are, if you click the GPU links that are down in the description, like literally right now, 2 of these graphics cards are probably gonna be seen for $120, $140, or maybe even $150. But after some serious market research, we determined that all 3 of these graphics cards are consistently dropping below $100, and that's what you should strive for if you're trying to get the best value. All right, so in no particular order, the best GPUs under $100 in my opinion right now in early September of 2022 is going to be the RX 574 GB, the GTX 970, and the GTX 1060 3 GB. First up, stop and let me know down in the comment section if this was what you're expecting. Be honest, I really want to know if you would have selected these 3 cards. Oh my god, there it goes. These selections honestly shouldn't be a huge surprise to most of you. Right before the GPU shortage, these were all monster price to performance options for budget gaming PC builds, and now that the prices have gone pretty close to normal, we're right back to where we started. We're gonna run some benchmarks and compare them using our sexy testing rig in just a second, but I do want to give a little spoiler that I personally think the GTX 1060 is the best option out of all 3, but you absolutely can't go wrong with any of them if you're spending less than $100. The GTX 1060 3 GB card is usually going for around $80 to $100, and I'm actually starting to see this 6 GB model, which is a little bit faster, dipping under $100 as well. But for this video, again, going back to that scale of how repeatable we want these deals to be, I didn't want to add it to the list because it's still averaging over $100 right now. I also want to point out that if you spend a few bucks more on average, this Asus Dual GTX 1060 is like literally my favorite graphics card right now. I've been seeing these go for around $115 to $125, and you can make some really nice budget white gaming PCs, and I would recommend subscribing to to the channel if you want to see that soon. Now moving to the GTX 970, if you've been following my channel for like any sort of time, you'll already know that I'm always using this graphics card. I'm also seeing this go for around that same $80 to $100 mark, and the better GTX 980 version is starting to dip its toes under $100 as well, and once that gets a little easier to repeat, that's gonna dominate the price to performance charts. And finally, for the RX 570 4GB, this one is usually a bit cheaper on average than the other two. We're seeing it go for around $70 to $90, but this card does perform a bit slower than the other two, as we're about to see. The 8GB model is still consistently going above $100 and closer to $150 in most cases, so I personally wouldn't try to target that one, at least right now for this price point. And I do want to talk about all of the specific components in our testing raid, because this is a beautiful build that we will be selling over on the zaxtechdrift.com website. The next restock will be October 1st, by the way, but since I know we gotta get to these benchmarks, we'll just quickly rattle off the important parts for right now. Our CPU is the Intel i5-12600K. For RAM, we have 16GB clocked at 3200 megahertz, and we absolutely do not need to worry about our GPUs bottlenecking in a setup like this. We'll see the full potential of these GPUs for this testing. And definitely worth noting real quickly, if you are gonna put together a budget gaming PC using one of these graphics cards, you're definitely gonna have a cheaper CPU than the 12600K, so just know that you'll probably see a little bit slower FPS numbers, especially on CPU demanding games like Grand Theft Auto 5, for example. And without further ado, the first game we tested was Apex Legends, and for every test, we'll keep the settings at the exact same for each card, and for this one in 1080p medium, here are the results. We can see that the RX 570 4GB is performing just a touch worse than the equally performing GTX 970 and GTX 1060 3GB. Next up was Halo Infinite, which shows literally the exact same. In 1080p and low, the RX 570 achieved just above 60 FPS, and the other two cards got 71. Fortnite followed up after that, and in 1080p with Pro settings, we saw a little different result as the cards scaled up from the 570 to the 970 to the 1060. But also remember that this game is harder to benchmark accurately, and the CPU for this one has a bigger effect on the numbers as well. We aren't using a realistic pairing with this 12600K. But after that, we tested Minecraft. Shout out to all of you that have been commenting that we needed to re-add this back into the mix. Seriously, thank you for the feedback, because a ton of you have said this. And in 1080p with fancy settings, we got about the same exact results with every single GPU, usually indicating that we're at the point where our CPU can take us, but either way, all three cards can definitely handle this title without an issue. Forza Horizon 5 was up next, and when using the built-in benchmarking tool, we got a weird drop off on the performance of the GTX 970, but all three cards still got above our 60 FPS target mark in 1080p and medium settings, which you'll love to see. After that, we tested Lost Ark, and we got similar results as the first couple of titles. The 570 got about 20-ish lower FPS than the other two, with the GTX 1060 3GB getting just a bit higher than the 970. Next up, we tested Grand Theft Auto 5. This isn't a great game for benchmarking GPUs, to be honest, but I know most of you want to see the results on this one, so we added it in here, and here's the results that we got for 1080p and high settings. And for the last gaming benchmark, we have Elden Ring, and this one is definitely not a good benchmarking game because of that omega dumb 60 FPS cap, but I thought it was still worth showcasing that all three of these cards can push up to that cap in 1080p and low settings without any issues. And for 3D Mark Time Spy, these are the results that we got for the three GPUs. I'm not entirely sure why the GTX 970 performed this much worse compared to the other cards, especially since the 970 performed better in almost every title than the RX 570, but again, here's the results nonetheless. Now, we do definitely want to circle back to our testing rig real quickly, because honestly, I got a lot of help from our channel friends on this one. Our 12600K was cooled today by the beautiful Corsair H100i Elite Capellix AIO, and I absolutely love using this in my builds. It's fun to use the LED models where you can make the design whatever you want, but sometimes you just want that signature RGB and clean look that something like this has, and this is a staple for me with the higher end systems. Corsair also kindly sent out their MP600 Pro XT NVMe SSD for our testing to ensure that we have minimal downtime between the loading screens. These read and write speeds are blazing fast, and honestly, the aesthetics of this one are on the higher end as well, because I love how this one looks if you keep the heatsink on there. It's also worth mentioning that Corsair sent over this DDR5 kit of Dominator Platinum RGBs, 5600 megahertz, but your boy accidentally made a mistake because we're using a DDR4 motherboard, so sorry to Corsair on that one. That motherboard is indeed the ultra clean NZXT White N7 Z690 board. Again, for the 1000th time, you absolutely can't go wrong with this choice for any clean aesthetic build, because it's easily an S tier for the aesthetics, and of course, it's got some overclocking potential and some good monitoring software as well. NZXT also kindly sent out their C650 bronze power supply, which is a solid tier C and semi-modular unit, also rocking clean aesthetics if you were gonna showcase it, and they also sent out their newer H510 Flow case, and I've used this one like 3 times already and love it every single time. The aesthetics are 100% dialed in, as you would expect from the brand. There's now airflow holes in the front for better temperatures, and the cable management channels and options in the back is what a lot of other cable case manufacturers strive to copy. And finally, you may have noticed that those cable extensions are brand new to the channel. Obviously, I've been using Asia Horse for years now, but they just sent over these brand new Pro extensions which have the white connectors instead of black, and they look so clean. This new Pro 6 kit lineup has some really cool color combinations as well, and honestly, I'm excited to use all of them. This, along with literally everything else, is linked down in the description, by the way. And here's what the full parts list is looking like. And like I said, we'll have this build featured on the ZTT website restock at some point. We'll throw in a higher end graphics card so the build actually makes sense for somebody. And if you're still watching this video like an absolute baller, then comment down below with the basketball emoji and let me know which GPU you think would be perfect for completing the system once we go to sell it. And you can also let me know what other price point you want to see with the same style of video, because honestly, I want to make another one because I think this is really valuable to a lot of you. And if you want to watch another video right now which will help you build those budget gaming PCs, then feel free to click the video that's on the screen now.